Welcome to I Still Call It a Lariat, a pro wrestling podcast brought to you weekly. My name is stevezapf, and with me, as always, is my hetero life mate, Mr. Showtime, Michael Wright. How you doing over there, Showtime?
You know me, Steven. I'm living the dream.
Awesome. A lot of stuff happening in wrestling this week. A lot of stuff. Some of it good, a lot of it bad. But the one thing that is constant, I'm breaking out the broom already.
Well, that's not actually.
This is for my friends. Wrestling. Nope. But for my friends that are Capitals fans. Ha ha. I am wearing the shirt.
Yeah, go Rangers.
Let's go Rangers. On to a little bit more serious stuff. I do have some shout outs this week. I'd like to shout out Lindsay Jordan. I just did a podcast with her. She is a promoter out in the UK. She runs, let me look it up again. I'm so sorry. The OIWA. It's a actual worldwide promotion. She actually has contracts with people in Texas and the UK and I think even Germany now. So she's really building it up. We're going to try to get her on the show soon. Really, really cool lady. She runs some Comic-Con stuff. It's kind of all the stuff that I, and Scarps are all into. Like she's a really cool lady to get involved with.
Yeah, looking forward to having her on.
I'd like to throw another shout out to Warrior Breed Wrestling. They have been a great friend to the show and helping us out with a lot of stuff. And of course, as always, Coal Mines. Guys, I enjoyed being your special guest host this week. It was awesome. We will have links to all of this stuff in our descriptions below. Also, as always, Tap Cancer Out is a non-profit organization. It is a jiu-jitsu tournament that helps with Alex's Lemonade Stand, American Brain Tumor Association, Isabel Santos Foundation, Little Pink Houses of Hope, Camp Sunshine, Christopher's Haven, the Sidney Kimball Comprehensive Cancer Center at Johns Hopkins, CureCervicalCancer.org, First Descents, and Tom Coughlin's J Fund. Like I said, this is a very, very personal, near and dear thing to me. I really, really believe in this stuff. It's just awesome. Like I said, all of this stuff will be in the description below, along with our social media accounts and things to that effect.
It's a really good cause. Everyone, if you can contribute, please do so. There's very few things that you can believe in this world. This is a really good organization. Put your belief into. The other thing that we currently really believe in is we believe in Joe Henry. How awesome is Joe Hendry right now?
I love Joe Hendry's stuff right now. I believe in Joe Hendry.
Everyone believes in Joe Hendry right now. The fact that he is number 1 on the iTunes UK right now, I think he's like number 9 in the US. This has completely taken off and is one of my favorite things going on in wrestling right now.
This is amazing. Like, how is this a thing that is going the way it is?
Well, first of all, the song completely slaps. Like, we didn't play the whole thing. The guitar solo that happens slightly after we cut it off is absolutely awesome, and it's because everyone believes in Joe Hendry. I'm expecting him to show up right behind me somewhere, but I guess not.
Like a creepy Candyman. With his blonde hair and his big smile. I know we talked about this, Mike. Could you imagine if Joe Hendry and R-Truth teamed up?
Yeah, I'm going to try to get that together, and I need to be the manager for that because I just need to be ringside for the two of them. And I'll just be laughing the entire time. I won't even be paying attention to the match.
Oh my God. All of his stuff is so good. And the other side of this is we love it when wrestlers get over. And this is perfect how he's getting over. And it's enough of a comedy gimmick, but enough seriousness where if they did something where he won the world title, no one's mad about it.
Yeah, that's the hook. I know I've said it before, like particularly when we're talking about R-Truth and stuff. is if you do a comedy gimmick and you're not a good wrestler, I'm out. Like I just can't get behind it. You're covering up your inaccuracies in the ring for or comedy. But if you're a good wrestler and really funny, that is the perfect storm for me right now. And he's hitting both of those right now.
Ooh, let's go, Joe Hendry. We believe in you, buddy.
We believe.
We want to know if you believe in us, but that'll be for a different day. Hopefully, we will get Joe Hendry in some capacity over here.
Yeah, we're gonna try to start getting some more, potentially getting some talent on the show moving forward. Maybe small interviews and stuff like that. If there's anyone that you guys want to us to get on the show, send in suggestions. Don't say Cody, though Cody might actually do it. Beat him on the side. He'll do it.
He's I saw Cody once down here at Universal, and I think it was we had this moment where we stared at each other, and he obviously knew that I knew who he was, and I obviously knew who he was, and we just kind of did like the head nod towards each other because I walked away.
Yeah.
And it was like, thank you for not bothering me in the middle of having this special day.
Family time. I worked in New York for a very long time. I walk past celebrities all the time. You give a little head nod. I think they really appreciate that I didn't actually say anything to them. And you could always see that little bit of fear in their eye of being like, "Please don't stop me. Please don't stop me." And then when you don't, they're like, "Oh, thank goodness." They knew who I was, but then.
Well, mine when I saw him was when they were doing the Brody Lee Day, so the celebration of Brody Lee's life that they do every year at Universal with his son. So like I realized like I saw two other wrestlers, and Cody, it was going into Royal Rumble weekend, I think. So he had like his hood up and his hat down, and he turned, and I was just like, I know who you are. Just because you cover up that blonde hair doesn't mean I don't know who you are, sir.
But he was just somebody's best man at their wedding because they just asked.
Yeah,
just super cool. Like he's man of the people.
taking after his father. He's just a common man. On to other wrestling news, though. Our boy, Nick Nemeth, wins the AAA Mega Championship from Alberto El Patron, otherwise known as Alberto Del Rio, who looked a little rough, I'm not going to lie. He was wearing a cut-off t-shirt that didn't quite cut off right. But this is big. This goes along with what we've been saying about Nick Nemeth being kind of everywhere. He's like the higher profile version of Matt Cardona right now. Matt Cardona just goes everywhere. If you have enough to pay for his fee, Matt Cardona will show up. But Nick Nemeth is like everywhere for every major promotion. He's now doing stuff with Busted Open Radio. He's doing so much. He's just every day he's busy. And I appreciate that. I appreciate a workhorse like that. Just having the work ethic to be able to make it happen, because that's kind of what I respect about what Cardona did once he left Zack Ryder behind.
Yeah, he's doing that collection of titles. We had mentioned last week. I wish he could have scooped up the TNA one as well. And I guess I understand why. Half me kind of thinks that maybe Matt Hardy coming in changed those plans to give him an actual reason to be there. So like him going after that against Moose instead of having the title on Nick Nemeth kind of makes sense. I do still think they kind of dropped the ball there because you can ride the coattails of Joe Hendry here with some of the attention he's bringing on, the worldwide attention that he's getting at this moment in time, and really parlay that into more viewers. I had heard some pretty low numbers. I don't want to quote them in case I'm wrong on them from the last pay-per-view.
I've heard the same numbers, and the last pay-per-view was pretty low. I think a lot of it was, I think people expected, it's weird how they do it. Some of these pay-per-views on the TNA Plus app, they are available, and then some of them aren't available. So like even the next pay-per-view that they're doing apparently is available with the app, but Rebellion was not. So I don't know what the deal was. I don't know if they expected to actually get a buy rate out of it or anything like that, or if it was just, they expect to get a little something out of it. again, I don't know TNA's financial situation or what their catalog looks like right now. It could be completely screwed up. Who knows what Anthem's doing with them at the moment? They're kind of, it seems like TNA's all over the place right now, which I liked it better when they had a little structure.
Well, this is what they're stumbling upon right now, might be the way to garnering more of this attention that they're looking for. We already know that they don't want to put a lot of money into either signing bigger talent or, going bigger into marketing, things along those lines. I haven't actually seen a ton of them advertising, and I'm all over the wrestling spaces out there. So the things that I do see a lot of is I see Nick Namath all over social media posting constantly, trying to build up his own brand, having people like Joe Hendry have his theme music trending globally at this moment in time, which is
Globally,
just
by the way,
insane,
we still believe in you.
obviously. So like those are the things that are starting to kind of get some traction. So can you kind of jump on these coattails and use this to bring up? Is there other people within the organization that they can actually use their own social footprint or do some cool content generation rather than really going out there and buying big, expensive advertising spots? I mean, I was in the marketing world, advertising world for 16 years. So I really do have an understanding of how this stuff works. So when it comes to what they're doing right now, like doing this more grassroots could really be what it is that drives people to watch Impact. So not sure. Things I think they may be stumbling upon, even accidentally. These wrestlers are out for themselves as well, like not in a negative way, but like they want to build their own brands. They are also like a lot of the TNA guys also go out on the independents and are still wrestling and not just like locked to one organization, like if you were in WWE. So this is kind of something where you can marry the two, co-benefit here, and kind of move on.
Well, and to go on what you're saying, some of these guys, honestly, I don't know if it's necessarily the blueprint was laid by him, but the outline at least was laid by Cody. Cody left the WWE, bet on himself, made more money that first year outside of the WWE than he had ever made in wrestling before that. And he did it just by, again, putting the work in. I think they just didn't extend his contract, so luckily he was able to not have the 90-day no compete clause and things like that. So he didn't break any contractual obligations or anything like that. And then he ended up going and just working everywhere. And I remember he posted that bucket list of guys that he wanted to wrestle. And he got really far into it. He started putting on matches with guys like Kurt Angle. He started putting on matches in Japan. He held the New Japan US title. He was doing all types of stuff. They did the way AEW came about was off of the original All In pay-per-view, which had no real affiliation other than the fact that the NWA and Ring of Honor were kind of involved in it. And I think it all kind of stems from Cody setting this. Like I said, I don't know if it was necessarily a blueprint. I feel like if anyone set a blueprint for it, it was Cardona. Cody kind of gave us an outline. Cardona gave us like, hey, this is the refined version of it. And now Namath, who is friends with all those guys, is kind of following it and proving that he's willing to put in the work to do it. And if you're willing to put in the work, and I'm not mad about you getting the success that comes out of that, because you should at that point. In other wrestling news, Camille gets signed by AEW. Camille Brickhouse is all elite. For those who don't know who Camille is, she is a former college softball player, played very, very high level, or I'm sorry, college baseball player, I believe. I believe it's still softball for women, but played very high level college softball, played in the lingerie football league, ended up getting into wrestling. She trained with Devon, I believe, specifically, and is a specimen. She's like almost like a Jade Cargill type specimen. Like she's about the same height and all that stuff. So when she comes out there, there's eyes on her. She's married to Tom Latimer, who is a former champion in both TNA. He's a former champion in NWA. And she coined a phrase which I really like, because we always talk about Ric Flair being the 16-time champion, and, Cena being the 16-time world champion, and Triple H being the 14-time champion, and all these things. She held the NWA title for a really long time. I think it was like 2 years, the NWA women's title. And she coined herself as the one-time champion. And I really like that, where, like, I don't need to have more than one title reign because I'm not losing this belt. And it was really cool how she did it, because she was that dominant. So she held, for those of you who don't know, the NWA women's title is referred to as the Mildred because of Mildred Burke. So she held the Mildred for quite a long time until finally giving it up. And I know her contract, I believe, expired in January. And she's been in talks with WWE and AEW. And I wouldn't be surprised if she was in talks with Japanese promotions as well. I kind of assumed she was going to go All Elite. One, I see Tony giving her a bigger contract than WWE would right off the bat. Also, though she has some personal friends in WWE, she also has some people who she, on a personal level, does not get along with in WWE. So I know in the past she said that their views don't line up, but I also think that it's some of the personal relationships that she has. But this is a big signing.
Yeah, I really like the signing. I like that Tony's going out there and trying to scoop up some real talent for the women's division. Like, you could tell that he's trying to build that up. I don't think it's anywhere close yet, but there are a couple stars right now that can put on really good matches. I think Tony Storm's been putting up some pretty good matches. A few other ones that are out there. I want them to get Monet rolling and in the ring. Like, I really want this Willow and Monet match to be good. So, because if they can start doing that, they can kind of show that they have the cream of the crop. I'm starting to notice in the WWE that I don't know if their talent is as good as I thought it was. Whereas I think the top of their talent pool is like leaps and bounds better than anywhere else. But then afterwards, I think there's a pretty quick step back, and I think you kind of noticed that during the Battle Royal for the women's title, because you knew who the top three were going to be at the end. That there was really no question who those three were going to be. They didn't even take the risk of putting the belt on somebody relatively new to try to fill Rhea's place. No one's going to fill her boots or whatever. I don't want to make it sound like they'll take her place on the show, but just as a keep it warm until she comes back sort of thing. And they didn't have the confidence. They just put it on Becky, who is their tried and true champion, which I get that mentality. I get why you do that, where, your current champion goes down, put it on the tried and true one, who we know that can carry the division on her back. But looking at that battle royal, it was three people that you'd believe to win it and kind of a bunch of women's tag teams.
I think going with that, which I'm sure we'll talk more during our WWE section of this, I think if Raquel Rodriguez, if her health stuff wasn't an issue, I honestly think they would have put it on her. I think that would have been the one where we could have looked at it and been like, oh, like, they're not going to put it on Becky. They don't want Becky to, like, I do feel like Becky was the obvious choice here, but at the same time, I could see them going Raquel Rodriguez so that they have someone new to get the spotlight to. Well, moving on from the women's division to someone who is very highly involved with the AEW women's division, Kenny Omega is set to return this week on Dynamite. Showtime, I know you had heard a rumor that he didn't even really know he was showing up this week.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I listened to a bunch of stuff, read a bunch of stuff, and somewhere it seemed like that his family gave him the heads up. That could have just been a work in its own right. So I could see them easily having the Guns kind of come out here and say, "Hey, Kenny Omega's back." Oh, we kind of set him up to no show, so we can even further fire him for a third time. I don't know,
like we sent his invite to the wrong house type of thing.
Yeah, that feels like something that the Young Bucks would do. And
Yeah, it does, and it
in
reeks
storyline, of
of bad
course,
comedy.
yeah, like,
Yeah, it reeks of bad comedy.
well, when it comes to, I'm going to jump around this show, Doc, a little bit, because I'm going to put these two things together: the Jack Perry and the Elite beating up Tony Khan, because these storylines are going to be connected with Kenny
They
Omega,
are
right?
connected.
They're 100% connected. And so with everything going on, the way that they're kind of building their own authority in AEW, Kenny Omega is going to be the anti-authority guy, or he's going to be the original. It's slightly different. He's not going to be an anti-hero. He's going to be an actual hero that comes back and be like, when we started this together, this is not what we thought of. And you've taken this, not to get too deep in literature, but kind of like the Animal Farm aspect of things, where it's like, oh, we did this together for everybody, and by the end of it, the pigs are wearing people clothes. That's who the Young Bucks are right now. They're the pigs in people clothes. The if you don't get that, read Animal Farm. It's quite eye opening. But that's kind of how I kind of see this storyline breaking out, and that idea of Kenny Omega not even knowing that he's supposed to make an appearance after being very publicly sick, not bailing on show dates that he's supposed to be at, but actually sick. That is something that I can kind of see them orchestrating as a storyline. Is it the best? No. Is it bad? I don't think it's a bad storyline either.
So the other side of this is Omega's been very very public with comments on social media and on his Twitch stream. While he's playing video games, he's been taking questions about AEW and different things, and pretty much came out fully with stuff about the brawl out, which was the thing with him and the Bucks and CM Punk, and saying him and Punk are okay. Like, as far as he knows, him and Punk are okay. It wasn't his decision as to why they couldn't talk it out afterwards. And very vocal about that he doesn't think that that the way business is getting done sometimes is necessarily the right way that business is getting done. Flat out said that he's kind of an EVP in name only. Like, he shouldn't be an executive vice president. Like, he doesn't hold the credentials that should be involved with this. Like, I should not be a boss, because when things like that happen, or like with the Jack Perry situation happened, I would have just assumed it was chalked up to things that happened in a locker room. And he kind of said it like that. Like, things like that happen in a locker room. They happen in wrestling locker rooms. They happened in pro sports locker rooms. Like, teammates fight all the time. So he's been vocal about this stuff, which I think a lot of this is them making sure he comes back as the biggest babyface he possibly can.
Yeah, this is all work. You understand that, maybe not a work necessarily, but like, he has talking points on what he can and can't say. He's been in talks with AEW and saying, I will say things along this lines. I don't think he's throwing AEW under the bus. I think there's more going on in the background that maybe a lot of people are giving credit to. Maybe you don't think it's the right things to do, but I think a lot more people are on the same page about what they need to do to increase ratings, and what they need to do to like actually force some storylines, which is, I think, part of their problem is that they're forcing too many storylines and not letting some of these things organically grow. And like, I don't know. I wonder your take on this. It's just a random. I don't mean to get into a rant, but does AEW feel way more fast paced, in maybe not in a good way, than WWE, where it's like a storyline starts and ends almost on the same show, where you have no time to let anything breathe and like germinate and whatnot. Whereas I think WWE has the exact opposite. Like, we just got the end of a storyline at
took 2 years.
Well, not even that one, but like, there was one that took. It was. I'll get the names when we actually talk about it, but it was like 5 matches. No one really cared about it. No one's leaned in. About 12 minutes of wrestling, and it was just kind of drawn out, and like, no one was really all that engaged or really even understood what was going on. So like, those are the kind of storylines I think that WWE gets themselves stuck in. Like, sometimes not everything needs to be long-term storylines, but everything should last more than 15 minutes. And then you're like, oh, to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. Like, not everyone has that loss of attention that quickly.
I totally agree with you on them not letting it breathe. Here's a prime example of this. They're doing the same thing this year. They're going to run Wembley and 1 week later go to Chicago, which is their other big market. Like, Chicago is the one place that they still draw money out of. And you're doing a pay-per-view 1 week after doing a pay-per-view, your biggest pay-per-view. And you did it last year too. So all the stuff that happened at Wembley never got a chance to breathe. You didn't even get a chance to set up what the next pay-per-view was really. You had one show to set everything up in between. That's not that's again, that's just not proper booking. And you can say it's me thinking of old school ways of booking. It's not thinking of old school ways of booking. It's the fact that you're not giving enough time to let things happen and simmer in someone's brain. Like, you can't marinate on the fact that, oh, like last year FTR did beat the Bucks in a really good match. But you didn't get enough time to even think about it because they were already on to the next tag team title defense a week later on a pay-per-view in Chicago in a 10,000 seat arena. Like, it's fine. It's not 80,000 people at Wembley, but it's still a big show.
It's in that situation, and I wasn't really tapped into AEW at all last year to really intelligently respond to that. But in that situation, then you build the shows together, right? It's like I only have a week in between the two, so I should be building Wembley and Chicago almost like it's a part one and part two. Even if it's different storylines that intermingle, something happens at Wembley that needs to be paid off at Chicago. Like, that's the way you build those blocks and let them fall correctly for people to really care about. And I think that's what AEW, like, it just clearly with this whole CM Punk stuff, what AEW really drops the ball on is giving people a reason to tune in every week. And it's not just wrestling, right? It's not going to be, you have to tune in every single week to watch the wrestling. You have to understand the story that I know I'm going to get great wrestling with at the same time to kind of bring everything together. That's why in the past, this was some of the most epic entertainment anyone would ever watch, even when you thought everything was not scripted at all, or you didn't know what was going to happen at the end. Because there was real fans that really cared about those wrestlers, and there was someone who I really loved and I really hated that guy, and I'm really here to see this guy kick that guy's ass. And when that didn't happen, I was even more angry about it. And there was a story behind it, like Dusty Rhodes getting his leg broken by the Four Horsemen. Like, people were going to kill the Horsemen. Like I'm not over exaggerating in that. They wanted to kill them for doing that to Dusty because they were so into those storylines. Now, I never think we're going to get back to that kind of fervor and that kind of fire in people. But what you do see, like you saw it right now with the masterclass that The Rock did, the Bloodline went to 11. Everyone was really tapped in. And now I want to go back on what I said to you before, because I feel like it's almost like a hangover now, because everybody's hurt, like in both organizations. Everyone's hurt. I feel like you're getting a little bit of the lower talent, or the lower card guys. I don't want to talk on their talent at all, but the lower carded people moving up to the main events, and you're starting to feel it.
And it feels like we're realizing why these guys are lower card talent, unfortunately, because they're not, if they don't feel like they're stepping up in the right way. Like I get it that they're stepping into the places, but at the same time, it doesn't feel like they're bringing the same magnitude that it's hard to bring in the same magnitude as The Rock.
100%.
I get that. Or even Roman Reigns. But
during the build to
Mania,
feel
like,
right? Like I get all of that. I do.
But it also doesn't feel like these guys are stepping up to the same level as some of these guys that are lower. Doesn't feel like they're stepping up to the same level as even like AJ Styles or LA Knight, which that's the level I need you at. I need you to feel like, okay, this guy's out. You're the guy that we're plugging in that place. I need you to feel just as big as that. If you're going to try to make everyone the same, then do it. But some men are given just a little bit more, and that's kind of where it comes down to. The other thing with this Jack Perry and the Elite beating up Tony Khan, I
We have different
where do I
opinions on
start
this.
with? Where do we start on this? I I don't I don't like it. I I just don't like anything about it. My other thing is on the again the suspension of disbelief part of it. Not even just what happened and what transpired in the ring, which was JV at best. Tony Khan has gone on record as saying that the whole thing with Wembley and the footage that got released, he feared for his life. Feared for his life. Okay, that's fine. I get it. You've never been in a real fight. That is what it is. You've never been in a real altercation before. You've probably never sat in a real wrestling locker room before this, and that's why you felt this way. But then you put yourself in a situation that you booked where three or four of your talent beat you up. It takes away from what you just said about the original thing. Like, it again, hypocrisy in wrestling is big, but this is one of those things that we've been lingering on this fact that Tony Khan has been saying, I feared for my life. I feared for my life. I feared for my life. And I do enjoy that he sold the neck injury on the NFL draft, but he was all smiles the whole time. So, like, you kind of sold it. You had a neck brace, but you didn't sell it. Like, you weren't sitting there like this and on national television.
So we have a differing opinion on what's going on here. And so I'll try to lay this out to be fair on both sides, because I know that you're never fair to Tony Khan. That's just the way it goes. So watching the video, there is one spot where it could be CM Punk jumping at Tony Khan. The comment of fearing for my life kind of gets overblown. We are talking about professional wrestling. I'm sorry, things get a little over embellished sometimes. Surprise. We also don't know what happened in the locker room afterwards, in any situations where maybe they have a confrontation together, maybe Punk is over excited, if you want to call it that, and they're talking one-on-one when he's telling them to handle it. I was not there. I cannot give insight into that stuff. I have no idea how Tony Khan feels or the way he acts in any situation. So with that, you have this professional fighter who fought in UFC and in WWE, multiple time world champion. He's one of your guys. He just attacked somebody. Not really attacked. I don't think that's fair to CM Punk either. But he just got into an altercation with someone right in front of you, and now he turns his attention on you. And I could see that in someone who's not been in those situations before being quite terrifying in the moment. And then you leave that spot, you over embellish it even in your own head, and then you kind of use that to save face and, try to bury a guy. I'm not saying it's right, but that's what you do. That's been done so many times in wrestling that it needs to go out there. Now you're saying in a controlled setting where you are part of the booking that this kind of goes off. Like, I think this is actually them trying to get a storyline working. I think things need to happen to make the storyline actually good. I think the selling on of it in the NFL draft, he could have done a better job, sure, but I appreciate the effort, E for effort. But right now, when you're talking about the Young Bucks, you're talking about Okada and Jack Perry, I think you need to get Swerve on this team immediately. Swerve needs to join them as, listen, we'll protect you as world champion. Look at all this talent around. If you don't join us, Okada's taking that belt from you right now. But come on over. Kind of blackmailish, where you can see that Swerve is not really comfortable with the arrangement, but he's smart enough to go with it for now. And I think that all of a sudden lets that to start trickling down. It brings your main event talent to the main storyline, because your world champion should be at the center of a lot of what you do. It doesn't have to be everything, but right now it does not feel like Swerve is the main focal point of AEW when he's your champion. He should be.
No, he doesn't feel like he's the main focal point. And that kind of goes along with just the AEW Heavyweight Championship doesn't feel like it's the main focal point, and it should be. I I was watching some of the AEW stuff this past week, and on Swerve stuff, he's just so naturally a heel. Like his moves are smooth, and like he's perfect in the ring, but he just I don't know, just the look in his eyes, and it could be just his face in general. He's just naturally a heel, I think, because even after winning and getting cheered, he almost has this look of disgust about it. Like I don't really want this cheer. So I don't think he wants to be aligned with anybody. Where I could see the blackmail angle going, where what you just said would work, but at the same time, he's just an unnatural baby face.
And I think that all works for you, because I think that
Yeah,
right now they're doing him a little bit of a disservice. Like some of the stuff is feel a little mid card, like particularly the first guys that they're sending his way. They're not really setting up too much of maybe a good Joe rematch or someone to that level. And at the same time, they're doing things with Okada and Ospreay where they're keeping them kind of in the mid card. And I don't know why. I don't have a storyline to explain why. I got a really good one for Ospreay, but I'm going to keep that one to myself. I can keep him mid card for a long time, and everyone's going to be pissed about it. But we'll talk about that later, Tony, when you give me a call. I'm backing you up here, so you gotta help me out in some way.
TK, give one of us a call at this point.
But that's why I feel like, and maybe it's just getting his legs under Strickland to get him with this title and kind of establish him as the champion. But I feel like some of the things that they're doing with him, they're making this belt feel like a mid card belt, and I don't know what the main belt is then, because it's none of them at this point in time, except for maybe the
Honestly,
titles.
It feels like the main belt is the IWGP title at this point, or something else. Like it's like we've been getting more interest on everything else except for the world heavyweight title, which is supposed to be the biggest belt. And like you said, even the matches that Swerve has taken since becoming the champion, that first match, I don't have a problem with him and Kyle Fletcher having a good match.
It was a good match.
It was a very good match. I don't think it should have been that good of a match, though. You don't always have to put on a banger. And I know that seems, I know we tout all the time how we love good wrestling and things like that. But sometimes you just need that talent. Like Kyle Fletcher is a young guy. He's a young talent. He's on the rise. He's a big dude. They could have had him just have a few things in that match and built him up that way. And for the most part, because it looked like Swerve was on the defensive the whole match. And I don't want that from my newly crowned heavyweight champion who just beat the dominant Samoa Joe.
And he's not a swarmy heel, right? If he's a swarmy heel and doesn't deserve the belt and where he just finds ways to figure it out, I'm good with this.
That's different.
It's a completely different story.
Your babyface champion, your most popular guy in the company right now, other than Ospreay, because Ospreay is the most popular guy in the company right now.
There is room on the bandwagon if anyone wants to join me.
I already jumped on. Yep. It's okay.
Talked about it earlier. He's on.
But Swerve is your next popular guy. And I feel like they're not doing him any favors right now. Having him open the show with a match against a mid-card guy is what did this a disservice. And it's funny because I'm going to say later how I like that Cody wrestled Carmelo, but they had Cody and Carmelo put on a match in the main event in a match that you knew Cody wasn't going to come out of looking bad on. It was a little different scenario. You built it differently, where we just kind of threw Kyle Fletcher in there to throw him in, and for no reason.
There was a storyline behind that. There was some moments where you kind of looked at it like, oh, did Cody really almost lose that one there? But you knew he was already built as that champion. He was already built with this, and Swerve's getting a little bit more building into what he's doing right now. I think that the Carmelo Hayes match, it was more there to show Cody as a fighting champion, even though I don't think the title was actually on the line.
No, but it was just the fact that I'll
wrestle.
show up for the fight.
I'm on the show right now, and I'm actually going to wrestle on SmackDown. And one of the bigger new arrivals mans up and challenges the champion and gets his worth, because that's kind of the champion Cody is, and let him go out there and showcase himself. There was nowhere in that match where I felt like he wasn't going to win that. But then you go back to the Swerve match, and they just put on a fantastic match. It brings Swerve down. This is the moment where you want him to start squashing some people. If you look at what they're doing with Sammy right now, like, Sammy in the past was always the one that was kind of beaten down and had to find a way to win. That's not the match I saw against Bronson Reed last night, where he went out there and he beat Bronson Reed, and then Chad Gable came out. But it was a different thing. Now we're starting to establish him as a champion, as someone who has the right to have this belt, someone who's going to defend it, to a point where I'm like, oh, this guy's gonna have to really step his game up to take Swerve down. That's where our mind should be right now, and that's not where it is.
Well, and even who they gave him next was he went out there and had, again, a banger of a match with Claudio. And I love Claudio, Cesaro, whatever you want to call him. I love him. But the booking of him from AEW has been subpar. So I don't care about him.
I disagree on that one just a little bit more, because I think Claudio has come out here and put on some really good matches, and he's a legitimate threat. I could see Claudio rising up through the ranks and being a legitimate challenger based on his history of where he was. He just had that match with Ospreay. Like, Claudio is a more realistic threat, in my opinion. But I get what you're saying.
So I don't disagree with that he could and or should be a more realistic threat. But what they have done with him is they brought him in immediately and kind of tossed him to the back of the line, and then gave him the Ring of Honor World title with a title that doesn't have a show, doesn't have anything other than the fact that he's aligned with this Blackpool Combat Club. And they're, not to sound too much like other people, but the Blackpool Combat Club is a group of baby faces that act like heels, as opposed to like some of these other guys who are aligned with heel factions, but they're baby faces. Ospreay's a baby face. He's part of Phallus, or Callus rather. And then you've got Swerve. They still haven't had them denounce the rest of that group. They just don't walk out with them anymore. So you've got, that's kind of the key to being a huge babyface in AEW. You get a heel manager, apparently. That's how that works. But
it's interesting.
The stuff with Swerve, they're just not, I don't know, it just seems like they're not building him properly.
But that's across the board, right? I think that there's a lot of those things where they could use, they need some storylines. They need to get off of the fence of, we just need good wrestling and that'll fix everything, because it won't. It really won't. You need a strong storyline in there to bring it all together. You don't need 90% of your show to be storyline. I think that's not the right way either, WWE. But at the same time, like, if I can have a nice little mix, like, I kind of like the 60-40 wrestling to storyline things. Give me a 2-minute segment where someone's just cutting a promo on somebody else, and then we move on. You can have another 5-10 minute promo from Swerve, your champion, somebody who's at that level that deserves that. Give me an Osprey one. I'm digging what he's saying on the mic these days. Give him 10 minutes, but then like bookend that with a good 12-minute strong match and put another 15-minute good match after it, where you really do have a kind of a 60-40, even 70-30 split. Right now, they both feel like 90-10 in opposite directions, and I don't think either of that's the right move.
No, not at all. And to go with your point, like, what if, again, if they had done with Kyle Fletcher what they had done with Carmelo, let's say, where Swerve comes out first, he does his whole Swerve, I'm the new world champion thing, celebration. He's cutting a promo, and then Kyle Fletcher comes out with Don Callis and is like, I'm the hottest new prospect on any of these shows. I'm young, I'm hungry, I want a shot at you. And he goes, okay, bring it later on. Now all of a sudden we've got a little bit of a storyline to it.
Yeah.
And they can go out there and again, I don't need the banger of a match that they put on. I need like 12 minutes. 12 minutes of them putting on a good match.
We see
where
Fletcher
gets
is getting better.
Where Fletcher gets his stuff in and Swerve comes out looking stronger.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get that. I didn't get any of that. I got Fletcher looking like a god. He looked like he beat the crap out of him.
These two are not equals. One of them's the world champion. Not. One of them's not.
I don't care if you're the Ring of Honor television champion. You're not on the same level as my world heavyweight champion. You should not be. There's a difference between being the best wrestler on television and being the best wrestler in the world. And you're not. You're not that guy.
I think some of these storyline issues are also seeping into one of probably their best feuds, the best potential feuds with Monet and Willow, right? There is a story there, right? I don't care. Like, I wish they would show the injury that Willow gave Monet, just so everyone can finally know kind of what they're talking about. And if they have, I apologize if I missed it, but kind of like really rub it in everybody's face, being like, she did do this, because I don't know, even the injury, like, keep bringing it up. It makes me feel more that Willow's an unsafe worker than she hurt Monet on purpose. Like, if she hurt Monet on purpose, or just let that come out. Like, I know she didn't, but who cares? Yeah, I did that. You got a big mouth, and I didn't like you very much. I'm twice your size, and I hurt you. Get over it. If you were better, you wouldn't have gotten hurt. I don't know. Give me whatever in-character storyline you want to give me. Because she also is a babyface who kind of has a heel manager, right?
Again. and she's over.
And she's so over.
And she's over. And that's the thing, is she's over with a heel manager. They've never actually said why Stokely's her manager.
I do dig how Stokely tried to book a match between Copeland and Willow, though. Like, that's a baller move. That was a couple weeks ago for those that missed that. But he tried to get the TBS title, right? I always mix up the TNT and TBS titles. The Copeland title.
TNT title is the one that Copeland has. TBS title is the one that...
he tried to book the TNT title with Willow and be like, hey, let's put on a match. That's not what we're doing here. What are you doing, man? I like that. That was good. But, like, that's like, there's been moments through this, now that Willow's champion, to now where they can sit there and cut promos on each other and and kind of build this story correctly. And I still haven't really seen it. Even this week, I really didn't get that.
Well, and just in general, aside from Osprey, out of what we could call, I guess, the three bonus babies, Osprey, Okada, and Mercedes, what have we gotten out of them? Well, we've gotten a lot out of Osprey.
100%.
Okada has been. I'm sorry, but like, and it could just be that I don't like this story, the movement of this storyline in general. But even the matches we've gotten out of Okada have been mid at best. And this could also go back to me saying, I wasn't a huge Okada fan when he was in Japan. I thought he was good.
I think that's what it is. I think between you and I, like, I think there's an awful lot of people who are really digging Okada's matches. I like Dave Meltzer's one of them, but
Yeah, well, obviously.
there's a decent amount of people who are into his matches. I think that they're a little slow, and I expect a little bit more out of them. But that's more my preference than maybe anything else. They're not bad matches by any means, and if you're really into that Japanese strong style, he kind of does the blueprint of it. There is, but that's also like that's the benefit and the problem with it, right? If you're just doing the blueprint, you're not elevating it, and I understand
Exactly.
that. So that's where I'm hurting with this Willow and Mercedes thing is you're building, you're actually taking the time to build a feud, kind of, but you're not really giving them the mic time that they deserve. The mic time that you do give them isn't as on point, isn't as clean, and it's looking it's shaky at best.
At best. Not to mention Mercedes again, out of the three that we've had, the three bonus babies, I think we've gotten the least out of her.
But she hasn't wrestled, has she?
I
Has she had a single match?
she's still not cleared apparently. That's the other problem is going into this, like, she's not cleared to wrestle yet. Like, I wouldn't have brought her out because who knows whether or not 2 weeks before this next pay-per-view, the doctor doesn't go, oh no, she's still really not cleared. We can't we can't do this.
That just happened to MJF.
Yeah.
And if you are going to bring her back, she should have a 10-minute time slot to cut nasty promos every single week. Because I brought her back, I want her on screen, and let her cut some really good, impactful promos, and that's not happening.
But she hasn't. That's the thing. She hasn't cut anything great. I think her stuff is dry at best, and she's getting this stuff written for her. That's the even scarier part is she's doing a whole lot of like pre-recorded promos, and they're falling flat, man. Like it's just not. It's not working for me.
Well, it's also because you have technically face versus face right now, right? Like neither of them. Yeah, like you could see Monet's kind of leaning heelish. Willow, I think, is supposed to be the heel in this because she hurt her. Like, there's just not clear direction on each of them. There's not a lot of really impactful interactions, and it's what falls flat across the board for AEW for me is that there's just no story.
I'll tell you what. Mercedes wins that title. She'll be full heel because the fans will hate it.
Well, it depends on how good of a match they put on, right? If they put on a great match, I don't think they will. I think that they'll be all in. They'll be chanting CEO. I'll hear it from here, wherever they're at. And
not just because of the music.
That helps. But do you know what also helps? I believe in Joe Hendry music. But when it comes,
that's different. We actually believe in Joe Hendry.
I believe in Monet. I think that she'll be able to really crush it. But if my fear is if she doesn't, and that's where it gets me. And coming off an injury, like Willow, like I said, I've said this last week, she's improving week over week, and I'm excited to see her grow. But a dud of a match, oh man, I just don't even like the idea of if they put on a dud of a match and it goes sideways.
I said this after the Dynasty pay-per-view. I really like Willow. I also like Julia Hart. I think not to sound like I keep hitting the dead horse, but I think Willow would do great in WWE.
Yeah.
I think she's everything. I think she should go there eventually. I think they should look at her. I think she would do great in NXT. I think sitting down under some better producers and things like that would really, really benefit her. And unfortunately, she's just not getting it here.
It's no secret that WWE has a better developmental program. They have a whole show surrounding it. And that's what ROH is supposed to be, right? In theory, but it's not. It's their indie. It's the indie taste, right? They want that indie taste. The whole promotion wants to feel I'm big indie. But there's a reason why indie shows go off with 25 people in the crowd. And like we were there, and I've wrestled in front of 7 people. It's not all that fun.
No, it's. I mean,
it's
a little demoralizing sometimes.
But do you know what I am really excited coming out of this week is Will Ospreay versus Strong. I think that this number one contendership for this international title, I don't think the title matters. The title doesn't matter to me whatsoever. It's the two participants in the match. Strong really won me over with his last match. I thought he was fantastic in that. I know I knew he was a strong worker beforehand, but I really liked that match. And I think he and Ospreay, particularly coming off of the Ospreay Danielson match as well, I feel like maybe Ospreay had kind of heard like don't kill someone then no sell it. Let's bring this into that medium where you could do really fun, high impactful spots, but also make it believable. I think these two guys are going to put on an absolute banger of a match.
I agree. I think they're going to kill it. I think to agree with you though, I think the title doesn't matter here.
None of the AEW titles matter at this point in time. I want them to.
Well, no,
but they don't.
But I almost don't want Ospreay going for a title at this point unless it's the World Heavyweight title or whatever they're depicting as the best title, because he's so big and he's so popular right now. Going for anything less seems, I don't know, it seems almost counterproductive unless this is going to be the situation where Don Callis does turn on him.
Just took the words right out of my mouth.
And this is where, in which case, cool. Like, then I'm in. But, they're going to turn on him, and what are they going to be associated with the kingdom? Or are they just going to...
I don't think they'll be associated. So my thought, if I'm rating this match, he goes for, is it the Tiger Driver? Is that what, like, I've heard it called like a bunch
of Tiger Driver 91, yeah. the one that he's not going to use anymore.
He goes for it again to win the match, thinks twice about it. They are not happy with that he didn't go and be the savage just that he could be. And Don Callis double crosses him at the end. I don't think that they are like one giant faction now. I just think it's more of an expulsion of Ospreay than a uniting of two forces, and it allows the international title to stay. Like, it costs Ospreay the match. He doesn't need that title to get over. He's already over. I think Strong being the international champion is actually really good for him. Like, I think he's someone who is benefiting from having gold around his waist, and I would like to see him hold it for a little bit longer and put on a couple of other really, really good matches. So that's kind of the way I want to see that ending. But I don't believe anything I just said is going to come to fruition.
No, I think they're going to put the title on Ospreay.
Yep, that's exactly what I think is going to happen at this point in time.
I think that's exactly what they're... Oh my God, he's our most popular guy and he puts on banger matches. Let's put him in the...
Throw some gold on him. Quick.
Let's give him the banger match championship.
Hey, actually...
Really what this is.
I'm in. Make that too. You need another title? It doesn't matter. Banger match champion. Love it.
And he's from the UK, so it could just be bangers and mash.
Bangers and match? No.
Yes.
Don't do it.
I think it works.
Here. That's his realm, and you stay out of it.
Well, if he woke up, he'd be here.
I'm just saying, it's his spot. You leave it alone.
All right, that's fair. I don't know where... I know we were talking about the Jack Perry and Elite thing going into this. I don't know where they're going to go with Jack Perry off of this. It almost seems like he's the guy that they'd be making the main event talent at this point. But dear God, help us if that's what's really going to happen. Because I don't want that.
He's over right now. He's having some of the biggest sales and merch right now. That's where wrestling always comes back to the almighty dollar, no matter which way we look at it. And
I know, but I think he's also a guy that's going to fall off again too. So
it doesn't. It could even just last for half a minute, and it'll be fine. Like, I think that's like, sometimes you ride the hot hand, and this decision to do this is like, give him an opportunity to sink or swim, and see kind of where he balances out at the end of the day.
All right, last bit of AEW news that we have. Apparently, AEW has lost 2 of their international distribution rights, distribution deals. I'm sorry. One was with DAZN, which that's the only one that I've seen any articles really on, and the other one is with VIX, which it's VIX, capital V, lower I, capital X, just so you know. That is a streaming platform in Mexico and countries in Latin America and the Caribbean. DAZN had a 3-year deal with them, and they have opted to end their agreement after the first year, which they had that option to do. Everything that I have read about this is that it seems to not be on AEW, that they were very willing to provide talent and things like that and do business with them. It's just a matter of, again, different strokes for different folks. I know DAZN is very big on boxing and MMA, and it seems like that seems to be more where their focus was than to get the pro wrestling market. In which case, it's fine. It's I don't see this as big of a big hit to AEW by losing this, because it seems like they weren't getting a lot out of that ordeal. This is not like WWE going to Netflix. This is on a much smaller scale. Although I do think AEW getting a real streaming deal would be beneficial for them. I have said that in the past. I think them going on something where they get on like Paramount or HBO or something, or Max or whatever you call it now, I think them actually getting on that and maybe being that being their main distribution deal instead of a real television deal is almost a little bit of the answer to their prayers, because then they don't have to worry about ratings as much. Like, people can just enjoy the show, and I think maybe some of the pressure might be taken off of them to get these 900,000, 1 million viewership ratings, because for the most part, shows don't get that anymore. I mean, don't get me wrong, WWE does, but they've been cemented in our hearts for 50 years at this point. They're doing all the same stuff they've been doing. I don't know. I feel like some of their TV deal stuff is just, it's them ice skating uphill. But again, I don't think that them losing this stuff is as big of a deal as it looks like. I think it's just they just happen to lose these deals. I think they're coming into a contract year soon, so
Yeah,
they're going to be making some other new deals.
I'm not really going to comment on DAZN or VIX, VIX. But I don't know if I agree. I think that they're a $2 billion company. They just got evaluated as $2 billion. I think having these TV deals is advantageous to them for popularity, for being the mainstream. We talk about how DNA being on their small little slice of heaven really holds them back. So I think that having these like major cable companies being their home is actually more advantageous than it hurts them. And what I'm hearing, and this could just be publicity machines doing their thing, but it seems like Warner is happy with what they're doing. They're like number 6 against the NFL with the NBA playoffs and the NFL draft and like all these other like very big sporting events out there, and them still being that high seems like everyone's pretty happy on where they're standing when it comes to negotiating these new deals. So I think at the end of the day, they're kind of in the right places. I think their goal needs to be, how do we grow? Because we have a mainstay. We are losing a little bit of our current audience who we thought were going to be hyper loyal forever. Now, how do we get a little piece of the pie that aren't watching us? How do we get people to consume more wrestling? How do we get people to either watch both us and WWE, or pull people from WWE and make them here? And we constantly talk about our opinions on how they do that. So,
Well, we look forward to seeing where they go with their television deals and what they do in that aspect. WWE news: Drew McIntyre officially re-signs with the WWE, as announced by The Rock. The Rock sent him an actual Claymore sword.
yeah, that was cool. Him actually going out there and announcing the signing, I think, is a big way of showing how much they support Drew, even though his draft pick was so low. because that matters. And but having The Rock go out on social media and be the one that announces this deal, I think is a really big sign of support from the organization on what they expect out of Drew McIntyre. I think you're going to see some really big things out of him over the next couple of years if he stay healthy.
I mean, he's putting on such good work right now.
You put him
His
in
stuff's
any
good.
generation, I think he's a talent. Like he's one of those guys that transcends the time and date that we're talking about. He's working hurt where a lot of people do that, I'm not saying that everyone needs to work hurt and stuff like that, but he's willing to do that. He weighs the risk reward of all of this, and that's the decision he made. And I respect you making that decision. I also respect you taking time off to heal. So, but like he's the guy. He seems like one of those guys that they'll always be able to rely on if they take care of him. So take care of him. Do stuff like this to make him feel special because he's going to make the rest of the fans show up. He's a draw. He's somebody that people will come to an event just to see Drew.
Well, and I mean, look at him. 6'6", 270 or whatever, chiseled out of stone. He looks like a badass. Mm-hmm. And then he cuts a great promo. I think his matches are still very good. I don't have any complaints about his matches. Let's put it that way.
Yes.
Is he necessarily the guy that puts on my favorite match of the night? There's a good chance no, but there's nothing that he's doing in these matches that makes me go, oh man, I hate what he's doing.
I think the best way I can describe that is he puts on a top tier match. It's not normally the match of the night, unless he has that opponent to make it the match of the night, but it's never mid and it's never below average. So he's a consummate worker, professional, and someone who will put on a great match every single night. Like someone who's perfect to main event Raw, any Raw. I can easily make him put on a great match any Raw main event.
If he's the pay-per-view main event, no one's mad about it. It makes sense. And again, like you said, I think he's a draw in any generation.
I think him Punk could be a match of the night candidate. Like you put those two guys together. Though I'm kind of over the
storyline makes it happen.
Well, I think the match could too, but this story, I'm over him being a whiny bitch. Like, can we move on and be a badass again? I get, like, I was in on it. This one's starting to go a little long, where he's chasing him around the arena, and feels still like that absentee girlfriend, or whatever we were calling it, the jealous ex-girlfriend. I'm a little over that. I want to see him be a little more badass. I want him to listen to Sheamus and put things out there. I think part of it is going so long because now he's hurt and he does need to take a little bit of a step back, and CM Punk is still not cleared to wrestle. But right now, I wish he and Sheamus were teaming up against like Punk and somebody else, and just doing some great matches.
I think we're gonna get one more match out of between him and Sheamus.
I think that's later,
at Clash at the Castle. And it's going to be, I think it could also be one of those situations where we get the match so that they can clear the air with each other.
I think that's going to be later. I think Clash of the Castle, he's going to be fighting for the title.
You think?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe. I think he should.
Well, because Backlash is going to be... Oh, I didn't say win it. I didn't say that. I think he will, but I didn't say that. Because you have Jey Uso against Damian Priest coming up at Backlash. Is Clash of the Castle next?
Yes, I believe so.
So, who is the number one contender after Jey Uso? It's gotta be Drew.
Drew.
Like, that's what you do there.
I don't know. Well, I mean, we'll set it up, because don't forget, we also have King and Queen of the Ring and Riyadh too. Like, we're kind of getting right in there, right? Riyadh, or is it Jeddah? I know it's one of the Saudi shows. But to go along with this, we do also have the WWE draft.
Wasn't it invigorating? Weren't you so excited about this?
It was a draft. It happened. I have some little notes that I think would have made it better.
Me too. I have some pretty strong opinions on how to fix this. I'm gonna run down.
And yeah,
Let me. Do you want
I
to run
think some
down
of our
some of the
stuff we
things?
agreed on. Yeah, I think we agreed on some of the stuff. I'll let you ruin my thunder again by going first on what you think your notes on the draft could be.
Wait, real quick. I'm just gonna like rattle off a couple names, and just kind of like these are the things that happen. They told us 150 times that sometimes you have to draft your own people to keep it. I don't think you need to do that, but I'll get to that in a second. But so I think that was what made this underwhelming, is because a lot of those draft picks, particularly in the beginning, were used to keep talent on their shows, and I don't think you really need that. But Carmelo Hayes was called up, Nia Jax moved over, Braun Breaker moved over to Raw. You had Andrade move over, and Kiana James move over. You also had Baron Corbin called up. That was all the changes on night one. I don't think everyone needs me to talk about how Bianca Belair and Jey Uso stayed on the same shows, that the majority of these guys stay on the same shows. Of all of these picks, of all 23 picks on night one, 6 of them moved. Maybe 7. I think Fire and Dawn moved over.
Yeah.
Then so like it wasn't that big of a deal. On night 2, Damage Control moved. CM Punk found a home where he was already kind of staying. The LWO moved to Raw. Shinsuke moved over to SmackDown, which actually was one of the few things that I actually kind of popped for, because I think Shinsuke needs a little bit of change of scenery. Chelsea Green and Piper Niven moved. I feel like he only can say her name in that tone, right? Lyra Valkyrie moved over to Raw. Final Testament moved to Raw. DIY.
Dragunov went to Raw too. You forgot Dragunov.
I did. Did I? Oh, I skipped him. Yep. Dragunov moved over to Raw. Oh, called up to Raw.
Got called up to Raw.
DIY. Blair Davenport. Apollo Crews. Giovanni Vinci. All moved to SmackDown or called up to SmackDown. Dijak, New Catch Republic, and Odyssey Jones to Raw. So more moves night 2. I'm not going to go through all the other ones. There's certain people that weren't drafted that didn't make sense. So that's just kind of the recap of it. Here's how I fix this draft. Make less picks. Way less picks. You don't need 4 rounds and then 6 rounds. You need 5 picks for each show. Give them 2 call-ups each, and then 5 picks from each show to steal people. And make that the conversation. All right, I'm going to take from you. I'm taking so-and-so. Now, when you build up this draft, and your first 2 picks of Bianca Belair and Jey Uso are going to stay exactly where they are, there's no excitement there. I even like on night 2, SmackDown drafting Jade Cargill, where she really didn't have a home. Maybe she did, maybe she didn't. That felt more impactful because like there's a lot of excitement around her. Whoever lands her feels like it's really exciting. It's relatively new that she's there. Where Bianca Belair, if this draft didn't happen, nothing changes for her. It just didn't make any sense in my opinion. Where if you do that, where if you can do like 3 rounds, first round is call up from NXT, second round is steal, third round is maybe trade, where it's like, I got these 2 guys, send me over this one guy, and you got a deal. That could be really entertaining and good segments that kind of, in my opinion, fix the draft.
So I really like your ideas. Actually, they again, once again, I'll let you go first and you steal some of my thunder.
Just a little bit. I'm sure it's not that close.
No, what I was saying would make it cool also is if they did treat it like a real draft. One of 2 things. The fact that they kept saying champions are protected, I think it should have been that championships are protected. If they said the WWE Championship is staying on SmackDown and the World Championship is staying on Raw, no matter what, no matter who the champions are, I think that gives you a little bit more of a chaos factor in it. I guess it would be like that, because if you said, okay, well, with the number 1 draft on Raw, we draft Cody Rhodes. Okay, well, we don't get him because he is the WWE champion. But if he loses the title, he comes over here. I can't hear you. I think you're muted.
That's essentially what they did with the Kabuki Warriors, right? When
Yeah.
once they lost the titles, they go to Raw. So like right now, they're still going to do double duty
That's
until
the thing. Like
Bianca
I would
Belair
like that to be,
and Jade Cargill take those titles from her real quick.
yeah, until that happens. But at least on those other titles, we don't know that that's happening. Like you say the same thing for Damian Priest, or you say the same thing for, you know, any of these other champions. Like, oh yes, that championship is exclusive to that brand, but we can still draft you. You're not that champion or that championship. The championship is exclusive. So if you lose that title, congratulations, you're on Raw or you're on SmackDown then. Which gives you a little bit of leeway on how you can set up storylines later on too, because it feels like so and so and so and so would have a really great storyline. Well, instead of waiting a year or having to do a whole trade agreement in, you know, mid-season, I guess it would be, have them go. The other thing I'd like to see is if we're going to try to make it feel like it's an actual sports draft, which is what it felt like they were trying to do, I would like them to do, like, maybe give a franchise tag. Like, kind of how you said, like, oh, these are our keepers. Like, okay, well, let's say each brand gets 2 franchise tags, or Raw, because it's 3 hours, gets 3. Okay, well, I'm going to franchise Randy Orton and AJ Styles, let's say. And then on Raw, I'm going to franchise tag, you know, CM Punk, Drew McIntyre, and
How could you
someone.
could you say Drew second to CM Punk? How dare you?
It's just because I was reading it through this.
No, don't the disrespect on the man's name.
I mean, really, who I would like to franchise tag first and foremost, Joe Hendry.
I was gonna say R-Truth.
No, not R-Truth. I know you were gonna say R-Truth.
We're in a different place now. The comedy act here is R-Truth.
But they could be, you know, I believe in the truth.
I believe in the truth. The whole truth, nothing but the truth.
And they could be managed by Mr. Showtime.
It's a good idea. It'll work. I will not keep a straight face. I got nothing. I can't.
$1 million gimmick. Or at least a $10 gimmick.
So those are just like they tried. I think the problem is that they tried to make this draft feel very sportsy. And the reason why you tune into the draft is because I want to see, like, I'm a Giants fan. I want to see who the Giants are going to get for my future. And there's not brand loyalty like that, I don't think, for Raw and SmackDown. What you do with this draft, the reason of this draft is to shake up storylines. Like, do you know what would have been really interesting? If they would have split Drew McIntyre first, then CM Punk. So now they're on different shows. This whole build-up, how do you finish it? And and then what are they spending their time focusing on when that build-up's still going to happen? It's going to happen only at a pay-per-view because they still will. That's when, like, the shows combine. So, like, those are kind of the things that you want to see. Like, that's what I'm hoping. That's the excitement. Like, if I do see it, like, I thought, like, if Imperium would have went to SmackDown, that would have been really crazy. That changes everything. Gunther's no longer on Raw. Now what? Where does that go?
Does he go after Cody? Does he go after the U.S. title instead? Maybe, and you know, I'm going to give the prestige to the U.S. title that I gave to the Intercontinental title.
But that's a storyline. Like, that is exciting. The biggest stars stayed put, and I think there's not, like, who's the biggest star that moved? Nia, Shinsuke,
probably Nia.
Damage Control.
No, I mean maybe Damage Control. Probably Nia.
Not counting call-ups. Call-ups from NXT don't count.
Biggest star or biggest potential? Because biggest potential is going to be Braun Breaker.
Biggest wow moment. What is the biggest wow moment in this draft?
That it happened.
Like a couple years ago, the biggest wow moment, and sorry, Steve, to do this to you, but was the Niners moving up to take Trey Lance, which was crazy then, and everyone was like, "Oh my goodness, they just traded their future because that was their guy." That was excitement. This year's NFL draft, a lot of people thought there was going to be a lot of movement, and there was a lot of speculation that New England would move down and have people come up because they have a lot of holes to fill. But then they fell in love with Drake May. That kind of excitement that could happen and like it has that kind of impact on a franchise long term didn't happen here. And so at the end of the day, you just got a draft of mostly them picking boring picks to stay, and Michael Cole telling me, sometimes you got to protect your house. Like, who cares? And like, some of these things didn't make any sense. Like the LWO going before Drew McIntyre. Like I know I was talking him up, but like, come on, guys. The damage control going before Drew McIntyre. Ilya Dragunov not going earlier. Bianca Belair going first. Like some of these, I think the Carmella Hayes one, where that went, that actually was kind of cool. I thought because like you're using a second round pick on a call up that immediately challenges your world champion to a match.
Well,
that was exciting.
No, and it wasn't even. Oh, it is second.
It's the first round. It's the second pick of the first round.
Yeah.
So like that one was cool. The Nia Jax one I was actually kind of surprised on. That's probably the biggest switch because it does really bring the kind of a change of a face to the women's division. And the same thing with Io Sky going back over. Like that was their trade. Like that's an easy trade thing, right? It's like I'll trade you damage control for Nia Jax in that scenario that I was talking about earlier. And like so now you got two contenders for the world title. Plus you have the tag team champions who are going to play double duty, but once they're off, they're going to move over. Particularly if I'm SmackDown and I'm like, I see the number one contender for the tag team titles are people I own anyway in this draft or on my roster. I get that kind of excitement and that like thought process on how you build a roster. This whole thing just kind of fell flat for me. And there's I feel like very easy ways to fix this in the future. And by drawing it out and making it longer than necessary is never the answer.
No, I think it's kind of universal too. I think fans, the WWE universe, whatever you want to call it, where we're all kind of just like, the draft happened. It was just a way to get people on different shows to get different storylines out of it. And they didn't do it.
They didn't do it
greatly. It wasn't a great way to do it.
Nia Jax already lost everybody. The fact that she's going over to feud with Bayley and them is not this is great. Like if they would have taken Liv Morgan and moved her shows, that one is surprising because she's the one fighting everybody here, and all of a sudden that whole feud for that women's title is gone. Now you separated her from Rhea. Now you separated from Nia, from Becky. Nia just lost to Rhea. Just lost to Liv, just lost to Becky, just lost the Battle Royal. She needs a new spot.
Exactly. I think a lot of this is let's see what happens now. Again, I've been giving a lot of leeway to WWE because of the draft and because of how we're leaning into this at this point, and kind of how we said it's a bit of a Mania lull / Mania hangover at this point. From this point on, I need you to start putting your foot back on the gas, though.
Can we get some good wrestling? Cool. Can I get some good wrestling matches?
You can get more commercials.
No, I know I can get more commercials. How about you throw in a teaser match between Gunther and now I'm forgetting his name. Dude from the New Day.
Xavier Woods.
Thank you. How about you give me a teaser match for the King of the Ring between Woods and Gunther and go to 2 commercial breaks so I lose 4 minutes of that match, which that match was all right. It was a pretty good one. I like some of the spots in that match and the way they ended it. It was a great finish. It really made, I was a little disappointed that it made Gunther look so small, so strong, and made Woods look so kind of beatable going into this. So like former, I won't get too much into that, but Like, so that was a little bit off, but I lost 4 minutes of that match. It went to commercial break twice during that match. Like, I would like to see some, and even the matches that they do showcase on, like there was the Dragon Lee and the Rey Mysterio one, where there's a few kind of missed spots where people just kind of followed through the paces, where like they missed dropping the guy on the middle rope, and then he just kind of fell there. Guys, if you miss a spot, get up and fix it. Like this isn't a dance, this isn't a choreography. You need to get at the spot. Their wrestling is, there's holes in their wrestling that's starting to show, and particularly when I don't get a full match out of it is kind of disappointing. And I will say the level of the promos that are out there right now compared to where it was pre-Mania is not lifting up the deficiencies in the wrestling right now.
But hey, we've got, why should these pesky matches get in the way of our storylines and our promo time?
But you know what? Then give me good promos and story time, because I will say the Damian Priest, Jey Uso segments, they fell a little flat for me.
Yeah, like they're okay.
They're okay.
They're not
coming
great,
out of
but
The Rock beating the hell out of Cody against his own bus. Like
that's
that
the thing.
one,
Even the Cody and AJ contract signing, it was all right. It was mid.
Why AJ didn't attack Cody, I don't know. Give me some heat. That's instant heat. The crowd was already ready to boo AJ. Like, they were booing him, and he's like, you can boo me if you want, but I want to tell you how much I respect this man and his dad. Oh, great. Thanks for killing all that heat from someone who I know can generate heat on a moment.
Thanks for ruining it for me.
Like, come on, guys. Let's get excited about this match, because honestly, here in New Jersey, I don't care two Georgia boys getting together and duking it out. Like, I'm sure Georgia does. Maybe more of the South does as well. I'm really excited about that match, and I love that that's the first match that Cody's going to fight, because I think that AJ and Cody are going to put on an absolute banger of a match.
I think the match is going to be amazing. Yeah. That's actually the match that I'm looking forward to the most for Backlash. But also, I thought the signing was just like, either play off the fact that they're so respected by putting some dissent in them, or don't give them any respect.
Yeah, like, just do something. Come on, man. Just, how to build heat. Something to talk about. Carlito, he's the one that attacked Dragon Lee. Shocker.
I would never have thought that.
Who would have
guessed? The guy who spits in the face of people who don't want to be cool, double cross somebody.
Well, listen, he deserved
his finisher is literally called the backstabber.
I'm interested to see where this goes. I hope Carlito gets more ring time. I like him as a worker. I like what he can do with the mic. I like everything about him, and he just kind of seems like he's hanging out in the background behind Ray, and like Ray's very tiny shadow. Like, he's got big career shadow, I guess, but he's just a smaller guy. And
small guy.
And Carlito's hair is bigger than Ray is. So
that's fair.
So I don't know. I'm not really super into the storyline to begin with. Like, I don't care all that much, but I like Carlito. I would love to see a really good Carlito match with Ray, and like maybe put Carlito over, because I feel like he's been doing a bunch of jobs recently, and for someone whose first match he's a champion and had that initial first run, the second run feels really, really flat for me, where they could have done so much more. Thoughts on Carlito? Do you have you want to say? No, just move on.
Nope, just move on.
Yeah. So
Kevin Owens and Tonga brawl right into a ruined number one contenders match. That's the thing. Again, I don't know. It's cool that we're gonna get, I guess, this version of the Bloodline versus Orton and Owens, but yeah. I'm excited. I'm more excited to see where they're going with this Bloodline angle, in the sense of who's coming in, than I am who they're beating up right now, or who they're not beating up. Again, I think how we said it last week, Tama Tonga is not really going to be the monster of the group. I think he's going to be, I think he's the sadistic guy of the group. I don't think he's the monster necessarily. Like, he's going to be the guy who doesn't care if he busts somebody open, but he might not also be the guy that
I think
puts them
that's
down
clear now.
permanently. We've got on here Cody Rhodes is a fighting champion. We got a match with him and Carmelo Hayes. This is the exact opposite of what I was saying
Agreed.
about Swerve. I love the way that they did this. The way they did this with Carmelo, where he was such a high draft pick, and he came out and he took his shot, and they put on a good match. I liked everything that they did about this. There was nothing about the way they did this.
It elevated Carmelo Hayes from NXT to real talent, and it showed that Cody will take any challenge from anybody at any moment. But Cody was clearly the better wrestler.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Cody is definitely the better wrestler. And again, I think this was, hey, I'm the world champion. You were a former NXT champion. You are being called up for a reason. And they gave us the reason as to why. But yeah, I think that's where we're living in the world here. So that was Cody and Carmelo. Honestly, I think that they put on a good match. I thought that the story that they told as far as how they got into it was pretty perfect.
I thought it was done really well.
And I like that you ended the show with the world champion. Like you should. On to WWE's other show. We get the second night of the draft.
I think it's always funny that we do Raw second because we record on Tuesdays.
It's just the way the world backwards. It's just the way the world works, man. So on Raw, we got some stuff. Chad attacks Sammy again.
Well, Sammy attacks Chad first, right?
Yeah. We get a Braun Strowman return, which that was kind of cool. I did like the Braun Strowman return, especially since they did stuff with the Kansas City Chiefs. And
so Patrick Mahomes is a heel?
Yes, I always thought he was a babyface in real life.
Me too. I dig it, but I was surprised. Usually in that moment, you'll get the hometown quarterback being the babyface. They did it at Mania, right? They had Kelsey and the other Eagle going out there and helping out the babyfaces to win the match, right? And so him going heel was kind of funny. I actually kind of dig it because you're back-to-back champions. He's starting to get that I win too much luster on him. So outside of Kansas City, he might not be the biggest baby face, as you could say.
Not at all. He is not the biggest baby face in the world with me.
I mean, cry about it.
I'm going
Giants haven't been good enough for me to care. So, I mean, I care about football, but I haven't been close to Kansas City. So, but that is, like it's one of those things where it was a nice little swerving of expectations, right? Where I would have assumed that he would have like maybe double crossed Logan Paul later in the night, but now he went out there, gave his rings. JD took 3 Super Bowl rings to the Foch, which I thought was really fun. The makeup they did afterwards, or I'm sure that was real bruising, was hysterical. And I would love to see a storyline where Logan Paul doesn't give back the rings. Like on his podcast, he's sitting there still wearing 3 of them because he ran away and didn't give those back.
Yeah, he just kept going with it. It was... man.
Braun Strowman's return in that moment I thought was really good. So like, I actually wish that he was actually going to be on SmackDown so he could feud with Logan Paul, but that's not an actual thing. Because like he hasn't had that. Has he had that monster that he had to fight yet? Like, has Logan Paul
not at all.
A monster? And that's a good monster to feed him to. And I liked his return. I liked how small he made the Kansas City Chief offensive lineman look.
He's a massive, massive man.
Offensive
He's
linemen are big
huge.
dudes.
I
He is.
know,
Braun
and like
Strowman's bigger.
he's so big. And that's Strowman being trimmed down.
He's a beast.
He's so massive. I've heard he's a really nice guy in real life too. Like he's kind of funny and stuff. But
I can see that.
he's just a monster of a man. I mean, he's the monster among monsters, as they say. The other the other big stuff coming out of Raw. Unfortunately, Raw outside of the draft, it felt a little underwhelming. But we've got Liv Morgan becoming the number one contender, which again we had another brawl during that match, which seemed out of place if nothing else. First of all, why are Naomi and Tiffany Stratton there? I get that they're on the draft board, but still, why are they there? Also, not just why are they there, why are they there in ring gear?
Yeah.
That's kind of,
No matches, no nothing.
yeah, they don't have a match schedule. There's no reason for them to be in ring gear. They start brawling out in ring gear. And out of nowhere during a number one contenders match, like it just didn't make sense. And they came out of the crowd. They didn't come out of the entranceway. Like it wasn't like, oh, all of a sudden one of them gets thrown down the rampway. No, they just kind of
And like if they both attack Nia, I think I'm cool with it because Nia just did it to them. But there really was no reason why they should be there.
there was no reason for it. I think the bigger story than Liv becoming the number one contender is the whole not so subtle Liv and Dom thing, which with his
Boo.
with his with his awesome Eddie Guerrero mustache.
Listen, Dom, I was on your side, man. I was the only one. I was the only one cheering for you. You don't do this to my Rhea.
Poor mommy. Although that does go along with the idea that Liv is taking everything.
Yeah, I get it. But boo. The main event of Jey Uso, Andrade, and Ricochet being a team. I really want to know how that happened. Like what a random collection of people.
Team. Such a random team.
And then go over on the Judgment Day. That like really didn't make any sense to me whatsoever. The thing I was alluding to earlier was the Maxine Dupree and the Candice LeRae feud. Like this is one of those things where they kind of drew it out for really no reason, and now that the Candice is going to SmackDown, it's over, right?
Yeah, they just need to blow it off real quick.
And I don't like the way they blew it off. I would actually much preferred let Maxine Dupree win this because you had the Alpha Academy lose the tag team title match. So you're really just like burying them for no reason when you're trying to build up Chad Gable here. And I think Maxine was the perfect one to build up here. And I think they did it slightly right in this match, which is why I kind of want to talk about this one just a little bit. Because first of all, I don't usually talk about people's ring gear and how much I like it, but I loved Maxine Dupree's ring gear. I liked how she came out in the singlet and this like low cut singlet. That was like a cool look. I don't know if she wears it often, but I enjoyed that look for a women's wrestler. But she came out for someone who's supposed to be nice. She was called dumb the week before. She came out vicious and like out of nowhere. And if she keeps up this style of being kind of a vicious women's wrestler, because she's already so much bigger than everybody, she's got this really long kind of structure. Yeah,
she's really tall. She was a cheerleader, I think, before this.
And I forget. You could use that for like leverage in moves, and you can use that particularly when you're fighting some smaller women to like really be savage about it, and that fits that Chad Gable kind of thought process right now, where if she kind of leans into it, could be really cool, and the way that we can get her to actually move up the card a little bit. I feel like every single person in the back is rooting for her after all the stuff that happened with her being booed and everything. I'm not going to get into that because I feel like no matter what I say, I might get booed. but and I'm not looking for that kind of heat. But I
You're not
really
looking for
like the.
Dom heat.
No, I don't need Dom. I'm nowhere close to Dom heat. But I liked the way Maxine Dupree came out in this match, and I actually would have liked to seen her win this match with that more savage look and get a little bit of a nod of approval from Chad Gable here to continue the storyline, so it doesn't just seem like he's going to bail on them because they're all dead weight, which is what I'm getting right now.
It does definitely seem that way. So what I was saying is, apparently she's listed at 5'8" or 5'9". I think this just proves how small some of the women's wrestlers are over there. But she was a cheerleader for the Rams and a dancer for the Phoenix Suns. So I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of goes along with what she does. I liked her more vicious in this. Part of some of the stuff she does, I don't know, it just some of the stuff she does or tries to do, it seems awkward for her body type. Like I know she does the nip up a lot of times, and I'm not saying that she's necessarily bad at doing the nip up, but it just she nails it every time, but it always looks awkward the way that she comes up
You
with it.
know, I have to disagree with you there because I saw it last night and I liked the way it looked because it looked different. It was almost like a unique way to do it because it takes a minute. It's like this is
Like
probably a
she
bad
has to get
analogy.
all the way over.
Yeah, like it's almost like when you're in the front car of a roller coaster and you kind of stall. It's just the opposite of that, right? Like where her head kind of lingers just for a second and then she snaps it up. I actually thought it was cool and a unique way of the nip up to look, which is something that a lot of people do. No one owns the nip up, and like that was something cool for her to kind of. It's like a different, unique look. It's something I don't think many people can do it in that kind of style. So I kind of like that yesterday.
But that was Raw. There's not much else going on Raw, right? Like they did the draft. That was again the last week has been about the draft, and I don't think they're not doing any other draft stuff. And
The
now
segment
now we're in
between
a
our
blow
truth
off.
the segment between our truth and Chad Gable was fantastic.
Of course it
So
was.
back to that one was funny again. I really thought that was funny when he's just getting outmaneuvered by Chad Gable and he turns to the Miz and says that I might get drafted to the NFL. He's like, I've always wanted to do that. That was funny. But at the end of the day, it also like it led to kind of a underwhelming match with Alpha Academy. Like they weren't really ready. I would like that's a situation we talk about a lot about like getting champions over. I feel like our Truth and Miz are over right now. They're both legitimate wrestlers. No one needs to believe that they're champion worthy, right? Whereas in having Otis and I always mess up his name,
Akira
Tawazawa,
Tozawa.
Tazawa.
Tozawa.
Uh, so the two of them coming out here and actually having a really strong showing, which I don't think they did, would have been also cool with the storyline because I feel like this Alpha Academy storyline does have legs. I think that Sammy was so over, everyone was in Chad's corner. Turning him heel was the right move. Even having him berate everybody the week before, I think was kind of the right move. And now I would like to see them step up. And like even if like their stepping up isn't good enough, they're still stepping up. You're not just proving that these guys are weights because if this continues the way it's going right now, you're not going to see any more of these three, and they'll be released relatively soon because they're just not going to get over at all, and they're just going to get dumped on until they're kicked out.
I think so. I could see that as well. I think part of it is that they have to be losing now. Unfortunately,
That's okay. Well, I think Maxime Dupree could have easily won her match.
I think she
I think
could have
that's
won that match.
and
I think that would have been fine.
The tag match, they definitely lose that one, and I'm with you on that. But they should have looked stronger than they did.
And maybe have it be like, see, even when you're trying your best, you're still not good enough.
Exactly.
I could see that. I could definitely see that. I don't have much else to say about Raw though. I think we move on to our Backlash predictions. This is the blow off week for Backlash. That's the only other thing about kind of the lull of this is I I feel like Backlash for being the first pay-per-view that they've ever done in France is getting a little bit put on the back burner, which Backlash kind of does anyway. But
Well,
last year's Backlash was awesome.
so what I usually get from
The
Backlash
one
is these are some of those matches that should have been on Mania, and this year there's none.
no. Well, like last year they did the Backlash that was in Puerto Rico. And that was where we got Damian Priest versus Bad Bunny, which proved that Bad Bunny again takes the business seriously, and they put on a banger. That was a really, really good show, and that crowd was hot. That was when they decided that they really, really decided that Io Sky was going to get that tag team or that women's title, because that match with her and Bianca Belair was so good that they ended up giving her the Money in the Bank afterwards, which that should also be coming up soon. So let's see who we've got on here right now.
Yeah, I'm assuming right now we have, was it 5 matches? Yeah, we have 5 matches. I'm assuming we're going to get 1 to 2 more.
I could see that. I could see us getting something on SmackDown real quick. So right now, we have the Bloodline consisting of Solo Sikoa and Tama Tonga versus Randy Orton and Kevin Owens. I'm going to go with the Bloodline on this one. I think they're going to win. I think if they don't win, it's because they forced themselves to get disqualified. Let's see. We've got the women's tag.
We talk a lot about how Fatu is. They're holding him up. They don't need him right now. We're not going to do the call up. Surprise! Here he is at Backlash, helping the Bloodline win. And here's the 3rd member. So I think I'm with you. The Bloodline, I think, wins this. I think it goes back to the blueprint that the Bloodline always has. Someone comes out of nowhere and helps them win, though they still look strong and probably beat down. I feel bad for Kevin Owens right now. I feel like he's just taking a beat down after beat down. But he also looks strong after every beat down. So like, it's fine. I do like him and Randy tagging together. Like, let's give them a tag team run. Like, let's actually make this a thing rather than just make them as buddies that constantly tag team together. I don't know why they shouldn't be going after. But like, I actually would love to see these two versus the Miz and oh no, so this would be against A-Town Down Under.
A-Town Down Under, which I wouldn't mind seeing that either.
They've already beat them. So like, that would be a cool little blow off of like, we beat you guys on the lead up to Mania. Now you're champions. And guess what that makes us? So like, that would be kind of cool when it goes into it. Though I don't see how they can walk away from this.
They haven't done the Street Profits versus A-Town Down
Under. No, it's on SmackDown on Friday.
It's on this. Okay, I thought
I'm pretty sure.
I would have figured they would have put it on the pay-per-view.
No, I believe that's the main event of this week's SmackDown. I could be mistaken, but that's what I'm pretty sure of.
So there's no tag team title matches on
this. Well, there's the women's tag team title match, the Kabuki Warriors.
I'm going to stick with what I said, is there's no tag team title matches on this. Because this isn't a match. Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill are going to win this match.
Do they have a name at this point in time?
Yeah, Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill.
Like an actual name.
The Stormist.
Yeah. the Stormiest. I'm with you on this one as well. I don't see how the dismantling of Damage Control is going to be finalized here. I hope that they get a nice little run in Raw, and that they switch brands and stuff like that, and like reinvigorate that stable, because I think they have a decent stable and stuff like that. I also thought that the blow off between Damage Control and Bailey, like the same as the build up and the blow off. The build up wasn't great. The blow off isn't great either. They just kind of dismantled Damage Control without Bailey, and I think they just kind of killed the heat for all 4 ladies that are a part of this.
I will say this. This is my asterisk for this match. The only way the Kabuki Warriors keep this title is if they're setting up Bianca versus Jade.
I think they will do that. But first, they got to make us care that they're together.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't think it happens here.
That's the only reason why I could see them keeping the title. But I don't see it happening this soon. We have the Women's Championship with Bailey versus Naomi versus Tiffany Stratton. Oh, you know what? I think it's Bailey. I think Bailey retains, but I still think they could put it on Tiffany. I think it might be Tiffy time, but I believe it's going to be Bailey.
So I'm between Bailey and Naomi. I don't think it's Tiffy time quite yet. I was leaning towards Bailey retaining in kind of a weird finish, like kind of look at the Hangman Swerve Joe match, like where he retained almost by accident. So I think but I was actually between Naomi and Bailey. I just feel like they want to put the belt on Naomi at this moment in time. So like I want to pick her, but I'm with you. I'm gonna pick Bailey because I just don't see how they put the belt on her um at Mania to take it off to her off her at Backlash. Like that storyline wasn't exciting enough for that to be the reason she gets the belt.
I think Tiffany gets it at SummerSlam. Honestly,
I think the Nia Jax puts a big wrench in this whole thing. Like now she's there. Now she's clearly in the middle of this threesome, or I guess now foursome. And
we forgot Liv and Becky's on here now too.
Oh, Liv and Becky's on here now.
Yeah.
Yep, I didn't put that in here. You're right. That's on that's confirmed for Backlash.
I believe so. Yes. And for that one, I'm going Becky on that.
You know, I'll go against you. I'm going to say Liv gets it.
You know, what's funny is I was going to say Liv at one point, but yeah, I think they keep it with Becky right now. I think they're going to keep the tried and true champion at the moment, so they can send Liv a little bit more into Crazy Town.
So here's how I booked this match and this storyline. Becky and Liv are having a relatively good match. I think they're going to put on a pretty good match. Becky starts to take control. She's clearly going to win this match. And then Dominic Mysterio comes out and helps Liv win the match. And now we have this whole controversy of everything doing its thing. And then when Rhea comes back, Dominic's been on Rhea's side the whole time, just making sure Liv got the title so Rhea can come back and take it from her. Because he would never betray my Rhea. How dare you, Dominic? How dare you?
You know what? I'm going to let you have this one. Let you have your moment for that one.
Actually, that's not a bad storyline. Maybe not.
It's not a bad storyline. It's not a bad storyline. But it's just because you don't want Rhea to get betrayed.
How dare you? And plus, we need to have something different here. So far, all of our picks are the same.
Yeah. I don't think there's a world where Damian Priest loses the title to Jey Uso.
Really? You don't think so?
At least not here.
So I'm struggling with this one. I don't even have a pick yet. So I'm gonna talk this out for a second, because the way I play this out is I think that Drew McIntyre is going to win it at Clash of the Castle. So that's already booked in my mind. And what's a better match to have? Is it Damian Priest versus Drew McIntyre, or is it Jey Uso? And I don't want to see Damian lose it here, but main event Jey Uso, I feel like it's his time to get something here. There's not someone who's standing there to screw him. Like, does the Solo come out and screw him? What's the excuse now that he doesn't win this?
I don't know. I'm sticking with Priest on this one.
I'm going to go with you on this one, because I think I just talked myself into that. I think Damian versus Drew is a better draw.
It's a better match.
Yeah, it's a better match, and it's a
bigger draw.
Yeah, it's a bigger draw. He has a little bit more heat there. He does have the heat with Jey Uso and stuff like that. But I think that that's the reason why I choose it. It's because I think who's Drew going to take this belt from?
And finally, we have the WWE Championship. Just put Cody for both of us.
Yep,
There's
you
AJ.
didn't have to pick it.
AJ's not winning this title. I think this is gonna be match of the night, though.
Yeah, I think it's pretty easily match of the night. To be honest with you.
Although, to be fair, if there is going to be another match of the night, I actually think it's going to be the 3-way women's championship match.
You know, I'd put more faith in Becky Liv over Bayley, Naomi, and Tiffy. That's do you know what? I just hate 3-way matches. Like it's a running thing for me. I don't like. I just don't like it. There's always someone that's worthless in the match. I think that match is gonna be good. I also think I'm going to critique that. I'll tell you now what I'm going to say. You know, I really like this match, but it was a little slow.
What? Something new and different.
That's the prediction. There's a tiebreaker if I don't say that. I'm convinced there's going to be another match on this card. What's it going to be?
I don't think it's going to be Sammy Chad. Well, maybe it will be Sammy Chad or Sammy Chad and Bronson Reed in a 3-way.
Come on, another 3-way in this match.
They'll do stupid stuff like that, man.
You said that just to hurt me.
I might have, but I also think it's true. Carlito versus Dragon Lee you have on here, maybe.
Yeah, those are my two picks that kind of makes sense based on what's going on now. It was Sammy versus Chad. I could see that happening.
I don't think it's gonna be. I don't think it's gonna be Carlito versus Dragon Lee. I think if it's anything, it's gonna be Carlito and Ray.
Carlito Dragon Lee has to happen first, so maybe that happens on SmackDown.
I can see it happening on SmackDown.
But they've been looking to put Dragon Lee in kind of a spotlightish moment. That's why he was originally Ray's tag team partner for Mania. So like that's why I kind of have this as one of those matches. There's a few other matches that could go down. I could see Braun Strowman getting some kind of match here because he's back. Like maybe
I
him
can
versus
see him more
Sheamus.
getting like a squash thing going on. Like he
You think
just
so?
he just goes out there, or like he might have a moment like where he goes out there and just kills somebody.
Here's out of left field. Sheamus versus Braun Breaker.
I saw they're kind of setting a little bit of that up. I don't know if it happens here.
In between, it could be a good one because I think Sheamus losing that match doesn't hurt him too much, but then Braun winning it could really
elevate him.
Same thing that Carmelo Hayes did for Braun. Because like Braun's squash matches are killing me. Because I really don't watch NXT all that much. So I haven't seen his real matches. I am a little disappointed that him and Corbin aren't going to be teaming up. Because like I was really kind of excited about that, but I understand why they're doing that. It sounds like they're going to make them both single stars because they see the singles opportunities with them. Though I was kind of excited to see them in that tag team and maybe run the tag team division for a couple of minutes. Them versus the Creed brothers could be really cool. So like that's kind of what I was hoping for. But I could see them trying to just figure out a way to get someone like a Braun on this card, and maybe drag it off, get him on this card somehow. You could easily put him in here versus the guy that just got kicked out of Imperium.
Vinci.
Vinci. You can have those two guys go at it. That could be a cool match. This is all just title matches except for the tag teams. A tag team match. Like I just think it needs another non-title match. Like that's not what we do in paper. This isn't Clash of the Champions.
This isn't Dynasty.
Like, that's what happens when you have 11 billion titles. This one doesn't have that. This is essentially all the titles except for the tag team titles and the US and IC title, right? It's all the world championship titles. Maybe they do have too many world championship titles.
At least they've been established a little longer. Like AEW has 11 billion titles, and they've been around for like 5 years.
So there's nothing else that I could see a match kind of come up. So I'm not sure what that is. yeah, I don't know. Nothing else comes to mind that I would think could fit this. I would love to see Gunter find his way on this card. I just don't know how you do it.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. And now,
Imperium
well,
versus New
so
Day.
those are our Backlash previews, our predictions. I think that's all we got
Yeah,
for the actual world of current pro
if there is
wrestling,
any,
and that
if
brings.
there are any additional matches to Backlash, we'll make picks. Maybe we'll post them on social media. You can follow us on Twitter or all the other handles under our names, where we'll add those picks or something to kind of show that we made these picks now that we know from Saturday or from
We might
Friday.
even make a fancy graphic for it. Who
Ooh,
knows?
fancy.
Fancy graphic. But with that said, that brings us to.
Mail, motherfucker.
We once again have a mailing question.
Love it.
This one comes from Daniel in Orlando. His question is, what are some of the biggest missed opportunities? For example, we never got Taker versus Sting. One of his would have been Michael Shane versus Teddy Hart. I think I think Taker and Sting is a huge missed opportunity.
It's the perfect example. Like, thanks for stealing the perfect answer there, bud. But yeah, that is, I feel like the one that anyone that's into wrestling has that initial reaction of like, oh yeah, take your stick.
I've also said, and I know we talked about this a little bit because we went over the question before the show, and that's if they had just done the invasion angle properly, and maybe we got some of those other stars that we didn't get because they were still under contract with Time Warner, and that's what we missed out on. I think that was some of the bigger missed opportunities. We missed out on a couple of different things.
I think
with
it's
that.
worth the invasion angle is worth talking about for a second. It's the biggest missed opportunity in wrestling history, in my opinion, overall. And just because like what ended up happening was you had the WWE A Squad versus WCW's B Squad and ECW. And ECW is always a secondary tier kind of organization, right? WCW and WWE were 1A and 1B, whatever the Monday Night War kind of placed them. And then ECW was always the one down that everyone kept stealing talent from to kind of elevate them. And you could have seen better things. Like the NWO invasion angle that they did years later would have been way better if they would have done it during the invasion, where like you don't switch Austin to all of a sudden to be on WCW side because like that makes sense. The like even when they brought that up, even as they were building that up, the world title match between Buff Bagwell and Booker T, Booker T ended up being a really strong wrestler in WWE long term, but they didn't really handle him all that perfectly in the beginning. And having him go up against Buff Bagwell, who was never really a world title caliber guy, leading into this, showed that they were a step below, and like that whole storyline kind of just became a big cluster of Vince showing how much he was better than everybody else. And that's where even throwing some of your big stars to fill the gaps of not having a Hogan or not having a Nash and Hall or Sting or Flair to come in. Like the fact that Flair didn't come with WCW is a travesty. And I know that he wasn't really in ring shape, he was like that was a dark period for him. But like he should have been him and Sting should have been the faces of WCW coming in with potentially big NWO talent.
So I think part of Sting's issue was he was still under the Time Warner contract. I don't think Flair was, though. I would have liked to have seen Flair come in. If Flair was like the figurehead along with Shane McMahon, I think I would have liked
Yeah.
That would have been cool. Like if you could have had him come out and be the figurehead guy, like I'm the elder statesman of WCW. That's why I'm here.
I built WCW.
That would have been
because he did.
Yeah.
Like he took it from NWA to WCW. That is like, even though there's ups and downs and NWO came in, like the reason why it was anything is because of Flair.
But I think I think the invasion angle is the biggest missed opportunity in all of pro
No,
wrestling. I
ever.
think that's one of the things that we're both in agreement on. We never got, the only other one that I could ever think of is that we never got Hogan versus Flair at Mania.
Like in a real. I hate that they didn't do that. That's a good one. I didn't even think of that because they were there at the same time. There's no reason why it should have been Flair versus Macho Man. Like that Mania should have been Flair Hogan when everyone cared about the two of them, and they could have really just torn down the house. For me, the answer to this is like if you want to just call it one match, is The Rock versus DDP. I think that this would have been such a cool match. People's champion versus people's champion, be it during the invasion angle, afterwards. The whole storyline between The Undertaker and DDP, with DDP stalking Sarah while he's married to Kimberly Page. And no offense to Sarah, but it's Kimberly Page. Man.
It's Kimberly
like,
Page.
Come on. And like, it just doesn't make any sense. And there's a really good, if you guys haven't listened to this, there's a really good shoot interview with DDP with him going into Vince trying to pitch this idea. And they wanted him to do the stalker angle, and he regrets and doesn't regret not pushing harder, because what he should have done business wise was walk out of that meeting saying, okay, then I'm not interested in working with you guys if I don't get me and Rock, because they would have actually put that match together. But instead he wanted to work with them, so he stayed. But it made him a better business person later when he got into the DDP yoga stuff. So that interview was actually fantastic. You guys should check it out. The interviews DDP does now are great. The more I listen to him talk, the more I love him. But I would have loved to see the Diamond Cutter versus the Rock Bottom. This match would have been so cool. It would have been so over if you would have built it as People Champion versus People's Champion. Have the Rock come out as like a heel People's Champion, and then all of a sudden a single spotlight shines on the crowd, and there's DDP being like, no, this is what a People's Champion looks like. I even put The Rock over, because that's what I think would have happened. That would have been so cool. I think the crowd would have been so hot for it. And yeah, that would be my pick. If I'm going to pick one match, it's going to be The Rock versus DDP.
But if we went down that route, we would never have gotten the classic feud that is Christian versus DDP.
Cool. I mean, they had some good matches. It was all right, but
they did. I just had to go there real quick.
It was fine. Nothing on DDP versus Rock at Mania would have been so cool.
Oh, it would have been so good. Would have just gotten a huge pop for everything.
Self high five.
But Daniel, thank you for the question.
Thanks, Daniel.
Folks. If you are listening, as always, all of our social media stuff will be in our descriptions on all of our shows, wherever you are listening to us on. So you will have all of the information to ask us any questions. Please, please, please send stuff in. We love answering mailbag questions. But other than that, Showtime, you got anything else for him?
I have one more thing. I believe in Joe Hendry.
I also believe in Joe Hendry. Guys, have a good day. Showtime, always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure, bud. Love you all.